Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video. Hello everyone, it's Jess here. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll discuss some more oil painting tips, I'll share how I paint fur, and bring you along on the full oil painting process. The first step, and an essential one to beginning my sketch, I gather and shoot my reference. This painting is for a client who actually lives in the area, so I was able to meet up with them and take some references, and after trying out a few angles, we ended up going with this one. This adorable dog's name is Alvin. He loves to play on the beach and is super energetic and happy all the time. And that's exactly how I wanted to capture him and bring him to life. So once I had the reference ready to go, I begin my sketch by using a hard pencil, meaning a 2H graphite, and this will ensure that once I begin toning, it won't smudge. Then I continue to work on the placement of my subject, and I like to create a detailed sketch so that my values are established ahead of time. If you guys saw the video of me painting my cat Matilda who's sitting on my lap, I've also mentioned that in my process from that video as well. During this sketch stage, I'm also getting to know my subject in greater detail, and when I begin painting, I'll know exactly where the shadows and highlights are placed. So once I've completed the sketch and my studio buddy Matilda approves, it's time to move on to the next step, which is to tone the panel. I like to use a larger flat brush for this, and I would usually use liquid and oil paint, but to speed up some drawing process to begin painting a little bit quicker, I'm creating an acrylic base for the tone stage. Depending on your reference and how warm or cool it is, it can help you decide on the pigment to use for your toning process. I like to use some burnt sienna or burnt umber mixed with a tiny bit of ultramarine blue, and this is just to desaturate it. I like to create a really thin layer, so I just thin it out with some water and apply it all over the panel. I am using a cradled gesso board wooden panel for this, and I just enjoy painting on these because they have a very smooth surface. And toning my panel has to be one of the most satisfying parts. So prior to beginning, I like to have all my references printed out, and here is just like a to size print of Alvin, and I have a black and white version so that I can see the values, and then just close-ups of his cute face and also the body so I can see the fur as well as the sand. So I have my palette here that I'm going to set up. I have all of my little station that I have going on here. And I do have this board that I put behind right here. I clipped it onto my easel so that I'm able to take the reference and just place it right over here. And as soon as the palette is set up, I am ready to begin. When I'm painting with oil, I really love using a glass palette. The paint is just much easier to mix, and it's easier to clean and scrape off any paint once it's done. As always, I set up my colors from the order of the spectrum, from warm to cool, and once everything is ready and set up, it's time to begin painting. Before I show you how I bring Alvin to life, a quick word from today's sponsors. Squarespace is an incredible platform where you can start building your website. Their award-winning templates are there to help you get started with some of the easiest steps to even begin. I've been using Squarespace for the past few years myself, and I couldn't be happier with how easy it was to set up my own shop as well as my gallery for my sketchbooks, my paintings, and they're all displayed in one beautiful page with a beautiful online presence. I get tons of questions constantly asking how I built my website and how I was able to do it, and that's right, I did it all with Squarespace. And I did it all on my own. So if you'd like to get started on a website, go to squarespace.com. There you can start your free trial. And once you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/JessCarp to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for everything you have to offer, and let's jump right back into bringing Alvin to life. When I begin my oil painting process, I always start off with the shadow shapes, and I'm just focusing on the reference and building out from the eyes. Whether I'm painting people or pets, I love beginning with the eyes because I feel like they are the most important part of the painting. Capturing the true expression of your subjects and, most importantly, capturing the eyes really helps the viewer connect with the subject. Also, after meeting Alvin and watching him play with the ball and just seeing his expression, I really was able to connect with how I wanted to bring him to life, and he just had the most sweet, beautiful eyes. So when I was painting this, I definitely wanted to make sure to nail that. So I'm just beginning with the center in the eyes, and as I'm beginning to form it outward, I'm constantly looking back and forth to the reference and to my painting, and I keep it close so that I'm able to compare the likeness to see what I have to add, and my observation is on high alert. Now, I always love to say pick subjects that you love to paint and always choose to paint what you love. And while I was painting Alvin, I was reminded how much I love painting dog noses or cat noses. I feel like noses are so much fun and they're so cute to paint. And I was really focusing on capturing the light and the way that it hits the nose. Also, of course, I was focusing on capturing those textures. And just this whole section was probably my favorite part, and I knew to take my time and also really focus because the center area of his nose and his mouth and his eyes really communicates his expression, and my goal was to bring him to life and make him look as real as possible. When it comes to painting fur, it can get a little bit tricky and can seem a little bit confusing since when you look at the animal, there can be many different colors that show through the fur. It's really important to focus on the big shadow shapes in general before actually focusing on the little hair strands. So I like to paint in the general area of the value that I see, and then as you can see here, I am pulling out some of these strands with a lighter color, and oil is great for this because it blends in smoothly. And then I also like to alternate by pulling out the shadows. So starting off with a base value and a base shape can really help once you're painting fur, and then carefully taking a nice brush and pulling out your highlights can help simplify the values of fur. Now, a really important tip in paintings is to make sure that your subject is connected to the background, but also the edges are softened. And what I mean by that is whenever we're painting, we can tend to have very harsh edges by our background. So a great tip and what I like to do is to really make sure that the edges are blended and softened. So in order to connect both the subject and the background, I just take a large flatter brush and I just fill in the area, and then I'm able to have this as a nice little base layer, and then I can work my way on top of that. So once I've established the background and while it's actually wet, I like to go in and connect my fur to the background, and that way I'm able to soften it since the paint is still wet. And before I go in with painting the body and connecting the body to the background, I like to get the background in so that it is still wet, so that when I do blend in the fur, it's going to be nice and soft. For the sand, I actually had a little trick and experimentation to use a piece of paper towel. I really wanted Alvin to be the focus of the painting since he is in the center and he is our subject, and I wanted the background and sand to be really soft, and I was able to take a paper towel and crumple it up into random shapes to actually soften the paint. And I also used a palette knife for the ocean in the background, and I just picked up some paint and was able to create like those wave textures that we see in the ocean. but I was also focusing on keeping it soft and keeping a balance on still creating some texture. I love incorporating these techniques into my work because I'm also able to create a variety, and experimenting with the way that different tools can help you in your work can be lots of fun. So I was alternating between some brushes, some palette knives, and some paper towels for the background, and while the paint is wet, I was able to start the little bandana that he has on, and I was focusing as well to make sure the edges are nice and soft. So once again in these sections, I'm pulling out those highlights with a thinner brush, and it worked well since the layer under was still a tad bit wet. And everything seemed to be covered with paint at this point, and now it was time to finish off the bandana and begin those layers. After I painted in the main colors of the bandana, I took a brush and made sure to blend in the darker red area with the pinks and the white areas. This way it can feel like it's woven, and if you look really up close in person, it really resembles the texture and feel of fabric. And I just do this with a really light hand to make sure that I'm not over blending. And since the tongue area was already dry, I was able to slightly begin glazing from the inside of the mouth area to appear that there is even more dimension inside. I also then switched over for the next session of painting to my glass table, and I found another supply to experiment with in the sand. I realized that this sponge was perfectly delicate enough to create even more dimension, so I was just applying even more layers to the sand. And since when we look at sand itself, there are all these different colors and shadows and little specks, the fact that I was able to create different layers was how I was able to resemble the texture and appearance of sand. Just look at that texture. I was so happy that I experimented and was able to create that. And to put even more detail, I took a small little brush and added some additional little specks that I felt would really bring it together. And at this stage, I was just going back and forth observing my reference and spending an additional amount of time to really punch out some touch-ups and officially bring Alvin to life. It was really beautiful seeing this painting come together, and I had such a blast painting Alvin. My main goal was to really capture his expression and just the way he is as a dog. I was fortunate enough to meet him and see how energetic he is, and he absolutely loves playing on the beach and actually loves wearing his bandanas. So it was even better to put some meaning behind the painting and for my client to have something super memorable to have forever. Here is the completed painting and how it turned out. I am really pleased with the finished outcome. I cannot wait to deliver it to its owner and cannot wait to see their reaction. But I'll be posting some behind the scenes on my Instagram as well. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I want to say thank you once more for all your support. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this painting, and if you enjoyed watching and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. We get really creative on this channel and it's full of lots of love and motivation, so come join the community. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!